Welcome back for another episode or edition of The Final Mile. We're going to answer your questions all about freight brokering. We got these from a mix of YouTube comments, our Facebook group, and I think I did snag one off of Reddit. Every now and then we'll sprinkle one in from the extended community. So if you're brand new or if you're newer to us, make sure to check out all the other content, freight360.net, including the Freight Broker Basics course for a full-length educational option. And check out the description or show notes to see our sponsors to help support this channel. All right, Ben, our first question. Is it worth taking a certificate course for freight brokering at a tech school if I already have a business degree, and how hard is it to break into the broker community? This person was talking about going to, like, I think it was a local college for like a tech or a tech school, as they said it. And dude, I have seen these at many community colleges, and they are like, the cost is what blows my mind. So my knee-jerk reaction is
3 credit hours for
generally
$3,500
no. And here's why. I'm not saying don't take training, but think about this. If I am a college professor teaching about freight brokering, oftentimes they're not brokering freight currently. And even more scary, they may never have done it before, right? And then third, there's the cost. Like, you're going to pay collegiate level pricing per credit hour, right? So like I've seen $3,000 to go through like whatever community college freight brokering, and you gotta wonder like how old's the curriculum, etc. There are some garbage training options out there for sure. I think one of the things that I like about ours is we both work in brokerage. A lot of our content, I think, is superior to the rest of the industry for that reason alone, specifically the course that we put together with DAT. The other piece too, and we mentioned this on the podcast that we recorded previously, is like we've been able to white label it for certain companies. So like they're like, hey, we want to train our employees, but we don't have training material. We basically can duplicate our training and then take out what they don't want, white label it to them for their company's name and stuff like that. So it's a really good option for stuff like that. But the going to a tech school or a college, I just don't think I've ever seen one where the curriculum and the price and the instructor align as like even a good option for that matter. So what do you think, man?
I totally agree. I mean,
have you seen those, like the community college?
I've looked at the curriculums, and I've looked at the teachers, and I've looked them up on LinkedIn to see if they were brokers. I mean, I am a huge proponent of education. I'll just start there. So like, I'm in no way saying that like education isn't valuable. However, also someone that repaid probably 150 or 200, I have no idea what that number even was, that I repay back in college debt. Like, I absolutely got value for it, right? In hindsight, what I know and how I make money in any entrepreneurial business that I've ever been in was the things I learned, practically speaking, doing the thing. It's great to have a foundational understanding, but you also have to be open-minded and willing to make mistakes and learn and work really hard. So like, I think our course, again, well, probably because I'm biased, we wrote it, but like when we wrote that, we spent like the better part of a year, and we really spent time, like dozens of hours a week for months, going like, what did we need to learn to do this job? How can we frame this in a way for somebody that doesn't know this to understand it? So I would say, like, as far as courses go, ours is the most comprehensive, that really takes you through everything you need to understand to do the job. However, just me telling anybody and then them listening to me, even if it was a lecture for a week, right? That's not going to allow you to just build a business easily because you have the information. Like, this is just how you build it. You still have to spend a tremendous amount of work. Like, if I went and built a broker, I built a bunch of them. You've done this a bunch of times. Like, it still takes a ton of work, even when you know where the easy way is, where you've made mistakes, what to avoid, how it functions. Like, it's still a lot of work. So for
Yeah, it's
somebody
more
trying
like
to
the
like,
playbook. We give you the playbook,
yes,
so as you go through your journey, you can reference it. So I
that's
want
a
to
great
actually,
analogy.
yeah, 100%. So, and here's what I want to compare it to. I just pulled one of these up. This is freight broker slash agent training, $1,895 from Monroe Community College. I wonder if that's Monroe, the one that's like not far from me. Here's the syllabus. All right, 16 lessons. Keep in mind, ours is like 40 something. Basics of freight brokering, setting up your business, setting goals, setting up your shipper packet, operations, types of freight, transportation law, broker carrier contracts, broker shipper contracts, insurance, record keeping, determining quotes, carrier relations, sales, marketing, negotiation. So out of 16, I think it was, 16 lessons, there's one on sales. Dude, we have two
It's 90%
modules.
of the business.
We have two modules full of like 8 lessons each on just customer sales. And then we've got
Yeah.
another whole section with multiple lessons on carrier side of things. They spend a lot of time. I saw this is kind of the same thing with Freight Broker Bootcamp. There's a lot of fluff in there on like administrative things that, they're important, but like you don't need to be. I mean, hey, this is honestly taught like a college class. Like you learn a bunch of crap you pretty much don't need, and there's zero applicability to it. So yeah,
The thing I would say too to what you just said is like, if you're going to get a business degree anyway, and you can fulfill some prereq with this class and you want to go work in freight brokerage, take the class. If you got to take some other class anyway to graduate and this fulfills some requirement, hey, there's no harm in taking this over whatever other general business class. If you're just going to spend your money to take a class to try to get a job, I would rather go through our course than that course. And then the last thing is like your playbook analogy, right? You can give a high school football player an NFL playbook. They can learn every play in it. That does not mean they're going to be able to execute them without practice, making mistakes, and learning, right? The difference between a high school or college quarterback and an NFL is the amount of effort, practice, and time they spend making mistakes and learning. And like sales,
Yep.
to your point, is 90% of it. Like I have read almost every sales book I can find in over 20 some years, from like large names to small names to content. We write content. I've looked at every psychology book I can find on it, gone into neurology to find it. And like, there's a lot of great stuff out there. But I will tell you, like, even if I had read all those books somehow by the time I was starting in sales at like whatever, 25 or whatever year it was, or however old it was, like that wouldn't have meant like I would have been able to do it just the first day I went to work. I still would have had to make 3 to 4 to 500 calls in that industry with that company, with that service or product to learn the practical side of it. Like understanding the framework is great and is super helpful to moving faster and to doing things and making less mistakes and to get effective quicker. But there's no avoiding the fact that like you are just going to like, my daughter's learning to ride a bike. Like you got to fall off the bike to learn how to stay on the bike. Like, and there's no avoiding that in sales. And sales is, you don't get to admin, you don't get to any of the rest of that until you got a customer that will give you loads. So guess what you do for the first 3 to 6 months is you got to learn how to build prospecting funnels, what customers are going into your CRM, how to use that tool, and call
syllabus
them.
didn't even have anything about prospecting in there.
Yeah,
where
so
to
like,
find shippers
great.
and all that. Yeah, I will say,
again-
like when it comes to like accredited education, so you and I, right? We help the live coaching portion of TIA's education for their new members, and we had to become accredited, or we had to become professors in Virginia to be able to teach those. And I think what I do like about that format is you get a mix of like the education, working with the actual instructor, engaging with them back and forth as these people go through their journey, right? Versus just take the course and like learn it all and then move on. So
and I'll like whatever bookmark it with what my mentor at the first job I had, like real job. It was at a bank, and I got hired there out of college. So like I just finished 5 years of school, major in accounting, stayed an extra year, got a major in finance, minor in econ. After finishing all of that, felt like I'm just going to go and know what to do and just be able to do this job. And I'll never forget sitting at the table with all the other, I think we were interns that then we got our job after like a whatever time frame. And the executive vice president at the bank had been there like 50 years at that time. He's just been there forever. He stands at the end of the table and he goes, I'm going to tell you one thing first off. I don't give a shit what college you went to, what major you had, or what your GPA was. Whatever you're going to need to know in this job, you're going to learn doing the job. The only reason I cared about your college degree was to know that you could commit to something for 4 years, follow through with it. To me, I don't care if you majored in basket weaving or, whatever,
Yep.
high level math or finance. And I remember being so demoralized. To this day, I can remember the emotion I felt. I just felt like everything I just invested in learning was just not worthwhile and has no application. Now, again, it did. It did make it easier for me to get and make progress in that job. But again, I kind of feel the same way. Like you still have to learn by doing it. And I think our course is the best way to get you a leg up in that world.
Agreed. It's funny, you had me thinking about when I learned business to business sales. The guy that this is like, let's see, how many? Almost 20 years ago. It was like while I was in college. So the guy that taught me business to business sales, he works for me now. Like it came full circle to where like I was like, man, this guy's good. I learned it so how to build rapport and everything that like when it came time to grow Pearson where I'm at, I knew I needed to hire somebody and I hired him. So it worked out pretty good. All right. Next question. I started a freight brokerage but didn't finish the application. How do I cancel it? Does anyone know or does anyone have advice? Well, you didn't start a freight Okay, so they started to start a freight brokerage. If you didn't finish your application, you don't really have to do anything. But I picked this question because I wanted to hit on a couple of things. First of all, what the requirements are, and then if you let's say you want to shut it down and like go be an agent, what do you have to actually do? So you have to get your authority from the FMCSA. The Unified Registration System handles all of that. You'll get your authority. You pay your application fee. You get your MC, DOT. You've got the surety bond and your BOC 3. Now, here is where when someone wants to close down their authority, I've seen it happen. Like they want to exit the business, they go to be an agent, and they're like, oh, do I need to renew or just not renew my authority? And what you would basically have to do is, and correct me if you have any more details on this, but the recurring payment is your bond, right? Or any other insurance policies you might have. Think about all your software that you've got. You definitely want to make sure any of your renewing payments are done. But if you want your authority to be officially shut down, that would be done through the FMCSA the exact same way that if you were go to make name change to it, or the same way that you got it started through the FMCSA. It's just the exact same thing, except for you're just going to have it revoked. So if you look at like authority history for a carrier or a broker, you'll see like authority granted and the date, and then you'll see like a revocation, which is the date it was revoked, and then reinstated. Sometimes you'll see like if someone they'll call it like, yeah, my authority lapsed, meaning like they shut it down for a certain period of time. I've seen like trucking companies, for example, they might get their authority and then have it revoked while they lease on to another company. And then maybe they decide, no, I want to go back to running it myself and not being, being leased on through another company. They reinstate theirs. But it's all done through the FMCSA. It's the Unified Registration System is where the actual authority piece comes in. But don't forget about all those peripheral things that you may be paying for on an annual or monthly basis. Any good business needs to understand where its money is going every single month. Otherwise, it'll get messy. But do you have any other insights on how to... We don't really get the question a lot of how do I shut down my brokerage, but it's pretty much it. I'd be curious what the reasoning was for this person. Maybe they just realized it wasn't for them. or maybe they're becoming an agent. I don't know.
I mean, I would say this, I mean, you cover pretty much everything, but like if you've been operating under a brokerage and you've been moving enough freight and you've got established credit, I would say like before I shut it down, I would jump on our Facebook group and just let anyone know
Try to
that
sell it.
you, yeah. And again, even if it's a low dollar amount, like you built something, you might be able to get some value out of it. Speak with an attorney about transferring it, and we're not going to go, like, we could do a whole episode on how that actually transpires, but like, I at least would throw that out there before I just shut it down. Again, the main thing is that you've been in business a year and you have established credit like on DAT to post loads and access trucks, because there's quite a few people that are still going to start brokerages every week, every month. And you might be able to help somebody get a significant head start with all the time you invested, and they might be willing to pay you for that,
Yep.
right? Or maybe they might come in and be a partner with you and you still own it. You get a smaller piece, they get a bigger piece, because there is a significant amount of work, money, and effort that goes into getting a brokerage off the ground and establishing credit. If you've even got it that far and you are thinking about walking away, I would for sure put that out there before you just revoked it and shut it down.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. All right. Next question. What load boards are best for covering step deck loads beyond DAT, truck stop, and parade? Okay, so if we're gonna exclude the biggest load boards in the industry, how do you cover step deck loads? I don't have a load board solution for you, but here's what I will tell you: is whenever it comes to something specialized like that, this is big with like heavy haul or oversized, over dimension things like that. These carriers that run that stuff and are in that niche, they are the experts when it comes to equipment requirements based on size, permits that are needed in certain states depending on the route, if an escort vehicle is needed, all that stuff, right? So what I'd recommend is whatever sourcing tool you're using, whether it be highway, carrier source. What are some of the other ones? Neutral is one. Call. You're gonna manually, right, have to build a relationship. Call these folks. Find out, hey, do you have capacity available? Typically, with a oversized, overdimensional load, you got some lead time on it. It's probably involving some project or something that has a sequence of events that leads to, hey, on this day, this thing needs to move from here to here in order to fit into the whole project. I have. I'm gonna answer the load board question and ignore not using DAT or truck stop, because I think you would want to use DAT and truck stop. So like truck stop has historically been pretty good for open deck equipment. DAT has been historically good for owning probably the biggest slice of the market for load boards. But remember, as you and I have talked about in the past, not every truck that's out there and available is going to be listed on a load board, right? You need to make individual connections with carriers. I was talking about it on the podcast previously, where like the lady that had the issue with sourcing, because all she would do is just post on the load boards. Didn't actually ever reach out to a trucking company and try to discuss long-term business and things like that. So I'm a big fan of the same way that you're going to build rapport with your customers. Do the same thing with your carriers. That's the best way to have good, reliable capacity, good, reliable long-term rates, etc. So, any take on that?
Yeah, my brain goes to, when you ask that question, you're probably just posting loads and not getting enough hits, so you want to find a better place to post loads. What I would suggest is look at the tool differently and utilize it more effectively. Like going into lane makers, finding out carriers that have searched that lane, calling them. Like, here's how you build a carrier base. Like, it's a lot of work. Like we were talking about in the other question about building a brokerage. It's hundreds of phone calls a day, right? Like maybe your buddy that runs a brokerage just tells you about how he posts loads, but like you're starting your book of business, maybe even at a decent brokerage that's been around. Like the expectation to build a brokerage is I'm making 120 phone calls a day, sometimes for a week or two, just calling carriers. I'm calling every carrier on lane makers. Hey, I run this lane for this customer. This is about how frequently it seems, any interest in it. The more specific your equipment is and the less there is, the more phone calls you got to make.
Yeah.
If you post up a van load, you'll find one. There's more of them than anything else. Reefer, there's less. Flatbed, there's less. Step deck, less than flatbed. RGN, less than step deck. So if I got to cover step decks and RGNs, I need a network of people I've talked to and had conversations with. You can't do that over email and just posting. Like, you got to put the effort behind it. Your phone is the best friend. I'm calling every posted truck on that lane every day, asking them, hey, would this work? And finding out, more importantly, not just if this would work, if it doesn't work, why wouldn't it work? What would you need to make it work to find out where the issue is? It might be that there's plenty of step decks calling this person and they don't have enough money in it. It could be there's plenty of step decks calling this person, but like the requirements are very obscure and it's over dimensional, it's over length, or like maybe they don't know the dimensions. Maybe every step deck that calls them asks them questions that they don't have clarified with their customer, so they don't get it booked. There are so many reasons why you might not be covering this load outside of the load board. My guess is it's not the load board. It's you're not talking to enough of them.
It's your process.
Yeah, asking enough questions, using the tool differently. And then again, like the way we used to do it is still, I think, one of the best ways. Is like with all the fancy tools, and I've demoed most of them, is like build an Excel sheet. Every carrier you talk to, put the MC in, the person you talk to, how much they want, when they would want that lane, how many trucks, what days of the week it might work.
Likely has a profile for
Yes.
like I can add preferred lanes in my TMS for a carrier. Like if they say, hey, I don't have anything available, but I love running, Jacksonville to Chicago or whatever. You could put that Florida to Illinois lane in there.
Yep.
And,
And now I got a small group, right? Now I look at that sheet and I'm like, okay, these carriers said they would run Jacksonville to Detroit on Tuesdays. So I get a load on Monday. I'm going to email that 5 carriers. Hey, got a load for tomorrow. Would this work for you guys, right? Like little by little, it takes you a while to get it built up, just like we were talking about. But once you get a carrier base and you start building relationships, these loads get a lot easier to cover. Like there's trust on both sides of the fence, carriers with brokers and brokers with carriers. So like if the carrier doesn't know you and you're trying to do something that you don't really understand, they're probably not going to take that load either. Like they don't want to go to load and then it not fit on their truck or have a requirement they don't have and waste time. So like you really want to spend as much time building relationships with carriers as you do your shippers.
Yep. Agreed. That's why you have the largest companies out there have carrier sales reps that literally do that. I always thought it was interesting that you're called carrier sales when really you're carrier purchasing. But it takes sales skills to do that. So, all right. Lastly, what AI tools can freight brokers use with daily tasks? Shout out to our sponsor, Levity. So you're using them quite a bit. So can you just talk through use case for Levity, and then I want to give a couple of pointers on automation after that.
I was on a call with him right before our recording today. One use case that is really prevalent is like load building out of emails. Like lots of TMSs say they can do this. I haven't seen one that does it well. Levity is very effective at if you've got customers emailing you load tenders and a lot of volume, they can automate that. So it literally takes the information out of the email and builds the load in your TMS. Again, a lot of them will offer it. I've seen very few that do this well, is one. Second one, I would say is so load building, because that's a very menial task of somebody just literally taking information from one screen and putting in the other. And also when it's automated, it makes less mistakes because it's just taking it from here and moving it. When you got a person, they'll miss the equipment, the date might be wrong once in a while, and that error costs money. So like load building is huge. Another one that I think is a pretty good use case is requesting PODs. Like I can't tell you how many loads a week the carrier hasn't sent in the POD, hasn't sent an invoice. You can't invoice your customer. So we've automated it where it's emailing every carrier the day it delivers and going, hey, just a reminder, this load's delivering. When you get the POD, please have your driver send it. It can email them again at the end of the day. Hey, load delivered. We want to make sure this load was delivered clean. Please send the POD so we can update the customer. There were no issues. And then it emails them the next day. And then it emails them in the afternoon the next day. And then it's just consistently 100% of the time reaching out to the dispatcher and the driver and saying, hey, please send us this POD so we can get you paid. And it can do it by text and it can do it by email. So again, instead of paying somebody to just make phone calls all day to drivers and asking them to send their paperwork, that's a big time saver. And it's 100% of the time. So every single load, every driver and dispatcher gets that to get the paperwork. Third,
Yep.
check calls. Really valuable to be able to automate. And Levity can do it by phone, email, or text. It can automate check calls. Hey, it can literally call a driver and say, hey, you're loading in about 2 hours. Just wanted to check to make sure you're empty. You're rolling to the pickup. Do you need any information? Everything okay? Driver can say it. It can put that note right in your TMS. So it can automate the task of just literally calling and making sure your drivers have what they need and you get to know whether they're on track before a problem happens. Biggest problems brokerages have is driver is going to be late to pick up. Nobody found out about it until your customer called you screaming at you going, my customer said your truck's not there. How do you not know where your drivers are, right? So when you get 100% adherence at finding those issues before they come up, incredibly valuable. I would say like those are the three really time consuming ones that save you lots of hours or staff to do 100% of the time.
Yeah, I had a pretty good conversation with one of the guys I work with recently because he asked me, he's like, hey, we might be switching our tech provider, like our IT contract we don't have an IT guy in house. We don't have enough demand for one, so we outsource it to a firm. And he's like, hey, we might be switching companies. This new one that we're looking at has asked us about any automation we may want to put in place using AI and whatnot. So we had a good discussion about like what tasks can be like automated. And one of the big takeaways that I was explaining to him is that like and this goes with any process change, is like don't make anything too abrupt or set something up that you don't understand how it's going to work, right? Or if you don't understand why it's doing it. So Levity, I'm sure when you implemented it, like once you realize its capabilities and how it works, you're then going to implement it at a pace that is comfortable to you. Because I always think that automation and AI is not meant to replace a human. I see the value as it will allow you to grow and scale without having to add more humans to your team.
Correct.
Like basically the number of the ratio of team members to profit improves when you leverage automation and AI. That's like, it's not like, hey, we're going to fire 3 people and replace them with AI. It's like, no, we should be able to grow and use these people in broader use cases, because the menial tasks, like you outlined, those 3 use cases.
Here's a few things.
Those are automated.
Yeah. To add to what you said, right? If you're going to automate something, you do not want to automate it and then just pull your team members away from it that were doing it. Just take check calls, for example, right? The thing I really like about Levity is they are going to work through it with you. And they're very upfront with the time it takes to be able to get something to work 100% perfectly, right? Like there's always things you've got to work back and forth with. Like I work with them constantly where it's like, hey, we're getting this new, any of the automations I just talk about, like it works. But then you find like, oh, this one word your customer puts in there makes it miss that. Okay, now we got to change that. Okay, it works perfectly 2 weeks. Oh, this other customer sends this and has different phrasing or doesn't put in the information the other one does. You got to tell it to pay attention to that, right? So it definitely takes some time, almost like a person, to get it to where you need it to. So it's a back and forth. And if you just let this thing go and you pull your staff away, there's a percentage of your drivers that just wouldn't get check called every day until you found out exactly why that was occurring. It wasn't. And that has to do with every TMS is built differently. All the APIs are differently. The fields, how these things communicate, like you can do it exactly based on the way the TMS will tell you to connect it, but they never work perfectly. And that isn't even just with AI. This is connecting your TMS to a legacy TMS at a shipper. I've never seen any of those work 100% of the time out of the gate. Yeah. And always a month or 2 later, you find an issue where like, it's not getting this amount of information. It's not getting these correctly. And you got to fix this. Like, I've never seen anything work out of the box 100% right out of the gate. And every other AI company I've talked to in their marketing material says, oh, you just don't need people, just use this. And then I get on a call and ask them a bunch of like tech specific questions. And I'm like, oh, so you're like 60% of the way there. They're like, yeah, well, we'll get there. I'm like, yeah, but like your marketing material and your sales guy told me like, you can just do this. But the reality is like, I still need people to do all of these things because
Yep.
like almost in our business is a failure. Like you don't get paid for getting a load 75% of the way there or getting a driver half their information and they can't get the load. Like it's got to all be correct or it doesn't move. Like that to me is like a big differentiator from them and other companies. And the last thing I want to say in this, I was thinking about this yesterday. I was doing a lot of AI research on being able to use the new Chat GPT Pro and to see what can and can't be done in it. It
I don't think
absolutely
I've heard of that. What's Pro?
Pro, it's $200 a month. It's supposed to give you a little bit of possibly like seeing how the agents might work, but it has a deep research function where it basically will keep asking itself questions to find its own mistake. And I've heard there's some like really good use cases for research where it's much better than the others. And I asked ChatGPT, I looked at the plans on their page and said, tell me what and where I can use each of these plans and why I would pick one or the other. It made a mistake in telling me its own plans. Like literally, and I said, and then I screenshotted the plan page and put it in there and went, your plan page has some discrepancies from what you told me. And it goes, oh, thanks for pointing that out. Like
It's even still learning. Yeah, I noticed that with ChatGPT.
these things are all making mistakes still, and everyone is aware of that. So remember that, like, as much of the hype as you hear anywhere, right? Like, it still for sure needs people overseeing it. It still has the opportunity to make a mistake, and you do not want to gamble your business on 70% or 80. Again, the thing that what I like about working with Levity is like they'll be upfront with where and what it's going to take to do it and how they've got to go through the learning curve to get it to that point, which takes work, time, and investment, right? And almost every company in our space I've at least reached out to, talked to, asked them, try to see where they are within the range of what's possible now and what might be. And to me, like, I still think they're the best bet for like all of those reasons.
All right, I'll end on a funny note here. So I just asked. Oh, it just went away. I just asked ChatGPT. I said, "Why would I buy ChatGPT Pro versus my current plan?" And it says it already deleted its answer. It says unable to display message, but it said ChatGPT Pro offers a bunch of something that you don't get in your current plan. And it says here's a detailed breakdown. And it says current plan $20 a month. ChatGPT Pro $200 a month. And that was it.
Yep.
That's all it told me was that it cost 10 times the price.
10 times more.
And then it deleted its answer to me. So cool. Good questions. Keep sending them.
Hold on. I want to give you one funnier one,
Yeah,
right? You always laugh because I'll bring up the cold plunge. But when I was asking both Gemini and GPT, right, about how much chlorine to put in it, it was off by a factor of 10. Both of them, Gemini and GPT. If I would have put the chlorine that both of them recommended, I would have had 10 times the amount of chlorine in 100 gallons of water that is just a little bigger than my body. Like it would have literally burned me. And then I went and looked, I'm like, wait a minute, like that doesn't seem right. And I don't know anything about chlorinating anything. So like I just looked at a few other sources and I went back and not only did it then go, oh yeah, I'm sorry, but I went back to that chat like 3 weeks later when I was changing it back and asked it again and it did go back and gave me the wrong answer again. So again, like you want to be aware because like these things we're trusting decisions with, like you for sure want to double check before you're going to do anything that could cause you bodily harm. That you're going to eat anything it tells you, or that you're going to do anything where you're going to gamble your customer, your business on.
Trust but verify. So I use ChatGPT to help me get ideas a lot. I'll end with this. Like I was trying to figure out. I was in a summery mood, like a warm weather mood recently, and I was like, oh, I wonder what, like if it can give me a recipe for a rum bucket. Like I always love getting rum buckets when I'm at like a tiki bar in Florida. So I just tried to pull up the old chat and I was hey, can you make me a recipe for rum bucket? And it like did the math wrong on like the ounces. And I was like, I pointed out like your math is wrong on the ounces. And it was like, it says, thanks for the catch, bro. And then it like gave me the correct one, and then but it's funny. So I guess what I'm getting at is it makes mistakes, but it's impressive how it's learning. Because then it said, what did it say? Do you want me to back this off a little bit, or do you want to go full pirate mode and add more 151? And then, so I messed with it. I'm like, go for it. And it said, aye, aye, Captain. Here's your full pirate mode, dangerously fun territory, rum bucket of doom. Like, just the kind of the funny stuff it does.
Yeah.
But again, to your caution, the math and its accuracy on certain things, these things are still learning. So, and it's like anything, it's going to always have areas to improve, and there's going to be new use cases. So, as our industry changes, as things that we can automate change, as our tasks change in brokerage, keep that all in consideration as you implement new processes or tools along the way. So, and I think on that note, we can put a lid on this extended length Q&A session. So final thoughts, Ben.
Whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right.
And until next time, go Bills.